Hey, welcome in, everybody. On Texas Football Tuesday Night Live Stream is live. And here we go. Aaron Hogan, Rod Baber, CJ Vogel, and burning at both ends today, CJ and Rod. There's not your typical Tuesday on the 40 acres. We had the start of spring practice. We had the introduction of a new basketball coach on the men's side. We had a pro day for the University of Texas, 21 players showing off for the NFL. We had a baseball game that's going on right now at the Dish with Sam Houston in Texas at 1-1 in the third inning. So it's been an all-day cookie starting 9 o'clock this morning, CJ, with a little Longhorn spring practice. I mean, there's 3 seasons in Texas. There's Texas football season, Texas spring football, and what's the third? I don't know. Maybe it's baseball. I don't know. Where we at? We're out there early this morning, man.
I know. I was looking a little red over here, man. That's not great. By the way, Jalen Flores 3-run home run. Texas up 4-1.
Oh yeah, it's 4-1 now. I just watched that too. Yeah, Jalen J-Flow.
I mean, a good day in Austin just gets better, right? And my goodness, was it a long one, Rod B? I know you were out there getting the work in. Y'all had some great interviews lined up on 3rd and Longhorn, but for Texas today, to start with spring practice, to have 120 plus, that was the number that Texas Socials just tweeted out as well, of NFL executives, coaches, scouts, whatever, all flowing through Austin. A great opportunity for the 21 Longhorns to come out, perform, and put one last stamp on display for what their NFL draft status or undrafted draft status will be moving forward. But ultimately, a great day for Texas football and the program itself.
Yeah, 120 plus. I mean, it was the who's who. Mike Vrabel, Houston Texans, D'Amico Ryans, and Nick Caserio were in town. Obviously, you saw head coaches, general managers, Les Snead from the Las Vegas or Los Angeles Rams in town watching Quinn Ewers and company. Give me your thoughts, guys. What'd you make of the day? We'll get into the hire of Sean Miller. We'll get into the pro day itself and what we saw from practice this morning, but what you guys think of the pro day? And Rod, you've been through that, so you kind of can understand what those guys were dealing with.
I think it's fun again that when you go to the pro days, like, oh, is that so-and-so's GM? Or is that Ryan Poles out there? Is that Les Snead? It should be a who's who of NFL kind of upper management scouts and coaches. And I saw that Aaron Glenn was out there. I saw him. Kellen Moore, I believe, was out there as well. And just got, when you're out there, I love a pro day because you literally bump into these people. You're like, I'm sorry, I didn't know you was sorry, Les Snead. I apologize for that. You just kind of run into them. So that's always fun. And it's for Texas, it should be a showcase, right? And not only the talent out there, but it should be one of those places where it becomes kind of a who's who event, right? And there is a bit of a kind of a networking element because Arch Manning came out, right? Arch Manning comes out and then the GMs and the scouts kind of flock over there. I was like, hey, man, I know he's not coming out for a couple of years, but let me go see what Arch is like. Let me get a little pre-mini interview with Arch. And, Arch gets out there and talks to folks. Then you get some of the old school Longhorns and who are the legends who come out there. I saw Quandre Diggs out there. So
there's a lot, Rod. A lot of old Longhorns out there.
Oh, man. Yeah, they're coming back now because, first of all, Sark's showing them love. There were some previous regimes that didn't show as much love, but Sark showing the love. But also there's the pride, man. The program is balling. Right? It's like, hey, there's a lot of pride right now in the program and where it's going. So that's great. But in terms of the pro day, I thought it was largely a success. We'll get into the individual performances and showcases. And I talked to a lot of the guys too, courtesy of a 3rd and Longhorn, and CJ was out there too and got a chance to talk to some of the guys. And, a lot of guys I talked to thought they definitely increased their draft stock. I think it's an easier discussion maybe to talk about the few guys maybe that didn't improve their draft stock based on what we saw at Pro Day.
Yeah. Jaden Blue reportedly, CJ, I know you had a tweet about 4.2.5, 4.27. He talked about had a growing tear partial when he was at the combine. So 4.3.5, he shaves whatever that 10th of a percentage point is, but 4.2 speed. Houston Texans want to have a meeting with him apparently. Other guys, as Rod said, it's probably harder to find guys that didn't. Quinn Ewers had like 4 incompletions and 3 or 4 were drops. He looked really sharp. What players individually stood out to you today?
For me, I have to start with, let's start with Jaden Blue because that's a heck of a time. 4.25, 4.28. I think that might be where all of us were expecting those times to come in on his combine 40-yard dash, and to see 4.38, 4.39. Don't get me wrong, that's fast, right? That's a darn fast time. But for Jaden Blue and what we've seen and what we've come to know about him, we're expecting something in that 4.2 or 4.3 flat range. This lines up with what we expected coming into this testing time. What's notable here is he said that he's been dealing with a bit of a groin strain. At least that's what he thought. And then he goes out and he gets the MRI. Well, come to find out, there's a slight tear in his groin. So that certainly provides some sort of reasoning as to why that 40-yard dash wasn't as quick as was expected, as was the instance for Gunnar Helm, who obviously ran in the 4.9s, low 4.8s, who was dealing with an ankle injury. So great bounce back for Jaden Blue there. But two standouts for me, one on each side of the ball. And Rod, I'll let you talk about the second one, but Silas Bolden had a great day today, and I think that was expected. I sat with Jeff Howe after the pro day originally and said, hey, I was sitting next to a couple of former and current Longhorn players, a couple in that secondary that just said, thank God we don't have to go against him again anymore as they get, moving forward towards the spring. But Silas Bolden, I thought, had a great day. And then on the flip side of that, in the secondary, Gavin Holmes, 18 bench press reps, 39-inch vertical. I think he ran 4.38, 4.4 flat. Yeah. Really, really solid showing. I thought he had a great day for what we've come to know to be his strengths of man coverage, pressing at the line of scrimmage, et cetera. That's exactly what NFL scouts wanted to see, and I thought he did a great job displaying that today.
Yep. I'm with you on the Gavin Holmes thing. There's a lot of buzz about Gavin Holmes. I'm not sure if he improved his stock enough to be drafted, but I do think he's going to force a few scouts to go back to the film and go watch his snaps. He could be a priority undrafted free agent. So I'm with you. He looked really good. I mean, I got a chance to talk with him briefly, and he feels good about what he's been told about his performance. Good. But yeah, so Silas Bolden, I got a chance to talk to him. We did a third Longhorn interview with him. He had a 4.38, also jumped really well in the vert. I'm gonna say the vert was around maybe 34 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So Silas Bolden is a guy that, I really could see if he ends up in the right situation because of the punt return ability, because of kind of the versatility. Now, he is small. There's no doubt about that. But he's proven that he can still make plays at the highest levels as a smaller guy. He just there was no path for him to get a lot of productivity here at Texas with the wide receivers Texas had in place. So be interesting to see what team takes a chance on Silas Bolden. I'm not sure he's, like I said, a guy that increased his draft stock enough to be drafted. But man, undrafted free agents, it's a tough road, but I do think there are Longhorns who do have that ability. I think Silas Bolden is one of those guys. And I think I like what I saw from Gavin Holmes because he can just flat out cover. He may have been, honestly, in terms of just flat out coverage, in terms of your corners behind Jahdae Barron. I mean, he was pretty consistent when he got reps as a coverage guy in coverage situations. So be interesting to see if a team wants to take a chance on him too.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. And, I think we're getting to the point, guys, where Longhorns are going to get the benefit of the doubt at the back end of that 7th round. And it's like, those guys they're good football players. They've been well coached, they've been well developed. And we'll see whether it's, 7th round or, into a preferred free agency, which is actually a better spot for guys if they can choose where they want to go as a preferred free agent opportunity for those kind of guys. And Silas Bolden, we talked about it a lot, Rod, on the in-game watch. He's fearless. I mean, he's small, but there's not a punt he won't return. There's not a catch he won't make. The guy is completely fearless at 165 or 170 pounds. He's a football player. He's one of those guys. And Gavin Holmes is interesting too, as far as that goes. When we talk about Jaden Blue, Rod, as a football, X's and O's guy, how do you see him in the NFL being used as a player?
Oh, the Jaden Blue story fascinates me. We got a chance to speak with him too, and man, the fact that this dude ran a sub 4.4 was a grade 2 groin strain. That is that's freaky in itself. He is an instant mismatch at the NFL level. I was talking to Derek Johnson about it, and that's why he claims he's had some type of contact, or there is a scheduled interview with damn near all 32 teams.
Yeah,
because if there are a lot of offenses that can find a fit for a running back who in the passing game he is an automatic matchup advantage for you because there's going to be linebackers trying to cover him unless you're going to put a DB on him, and there's not a lot of teams that are going to do that. And one of the things I found interesting that he said, he's been working on receiving skills in this process. Like even before the combine and for pro day, he was just working on route running and he's working on receiving skills. Said he hasn't done a lot of running back drills. He said that comes natural to him. So I think he understands where where he's going to set himself apart in this whole process. But guys, he is really impressive. The issue is, the knock on Jaden Blue is lower body strength, right? Look at his broad jump, go look at his vertical. I don't know if those were really impressive numbers, and that shows lower body explosiveness. But in terms of him just having streamlined, straight line explosives and twitchy quickness, in open field, man, he's a problem. And I think that's where a lot of NFL teams schematically, they may see him as perfectly compatible. I was looking at some numbers for him in the draft class. I plan on going over this maybe in football theory. If you go look at, he's number one in his class, and 73% of his rushing yards have come after contact. Number one in the class in 3.4 yards average when stuffed at or behind the line of scrimmage. And his 25% target rate is number 2 in the class among the backs. Like he's a unique freak. Like I said, I told you about this, CJ. That was a Chad Reuter, I believe, on NFL.com had a mock draft where he had him going, I believe, in the second round.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy. I don't think that's the case because the running back position has been devalued and the running back class is really, really deep. So I think you can find a good running back in the 3rd and 4th round, and that may be where Jaden Blue falls, somewhere in there. But he is a unique freak, man. Like, and these numbers prove it. If he's got 4.2 out there, that's a unique freakishness. And there's definitely a team that's going to gamble and say, no, he may be our missing piece. He's got an interview with Philly coming up. Because Philly's a team that's like, you know what? Yeah, we can use another freaky cheat code on our offense.
Kind of Gainwell kind of player, right? But just faster. Just a problem in space, like we see with Saquon Barkley, because big plays, explosive plays, change football games. We know that for the Eagles for sure. And I saw Matt Miller of ESPN has a big, a high opinion of Jaden Blue. What about the guys at the top? I mean, I know with Quinn Ewers, CJ, there was a conversation that was videoed with Kellen Moore, the new coach of the Saints, with Sark and Quinn. You know, Quinn only had 3 or 4 incompletions, it felt like, and you guys saw the throws. I mean, there was zip. There were the deep balls got better as the workout went on, and there were some oohs and ahs. There was some buzz to that. Some of the throws he made, and that's what we know Quinn's great at. When he's healthy, he can throw it on air with anybody.
Yeah, I was encouraged by Quinn. I think leaving the bubble today, I left knowing what I knew about Quinn without the fears of what I didn't, if that makes sense, right? I knew he showed me exactly what I already knew about him.
Yep.
You know, within 20 yards, within 25 yards, he's going to put the ball exactly where it needs to go. Right, Aaron, I think he started 30 of 35 or 35 of 35 even in passes before they started extending it way down the field. And if there was an incompletion, it was just a drop, right? I think he had a drop by Juan Davis on an out route, and then I think he had a drop by Silas Bolden on a go. But until he started to stretch the field, it was a tremendous, near perfect day for Quinn Ewers. And that helps Matthew Golden, that helps Isaiah Bond, that helps Silas Bolden, right? That helps all these guys. But early on the start, I thought was tremendous. And then I mentioned this earlier as well. Look, you throw 60 passes in a row, right? You got 6 guys out there running routes. You're out there. You got to throw every route in the book. Not necessarily any time for break, not anybody you got to share those routes with. I would assume your arm gets a little bit tired. I don't know if that was the issue with the deep balls, because the deep balls, they weren't pretty, right? You know, a number of them fluttered, a couple of them fell incomplete, right? It's still been what has been the conversation about Quinn, and I still sit here and say, I sit here and wonder how far can he actually throw a football? Because we saw the highlights coming out of Southlake when he was a high schooler, and Yeah, he threw a ball 73 yards. That's what happened in high school. But I haven't seen that throw, or I haven't seen anything near that during his time at Texas, nor do I think he can make that, because each time he stretched it that far down the field, it's not been pretty, and that was evident again today. But beyond that, and I'm saying anything within 25, I'll even stretch that to about 27. It was right here, just about every throw for about 35 or so.
Yeah,
Rod,
I agree.
Thoughts?
I agree. I think CJ nailed it. I was, if you're waiting to be wild or to see something in that throwing session that you hadn't seen of the 3 years on film, then, you're just going to be disappointed. Quinn has struggled with the deep passes, and, not that he necessarily struggled throwing those in those throwing sessions at the pro day, but it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty all the time, right? In terms of the ball fluttering at times, and then guys having to wait on it instead of being able to run under it. I still thought, for the most part, that he showcased what he does really well: timing throws, anywhere from the short to intermediate, as CJ mentioned. And if you got an offense that is built on that, and there are some offenses in the NFL that are kind of built on that type of pass. 60% of the passing game in the NFL, guys, on average, is quick game. Like 60% of it. That's 3-step drops, basically. Right. And that's that's his wheelhouse, man. He put on a masterclass in 3-step, different arm angles and getting the ball out on time with great anticipation. And that's usually your first read or some predetermined throws, which in Sark's offense, I think he had some of those, and he was great when he was on time and the ball's rhythm. But where he has struggled is the deep vertical shots, which are usually some, those are, 5-step drops. Those are getting, 6-7-step drops. And when he has to operate deeper into the progression or even off schedule. And I thought he improved in his deep ball, but it's just not a natural strength for him. But to me, that's just another data point. It's not a deal breaker unless your offense is an offense built in with a lot of verticality. Those guys won't draft him. Those guys won't. And you know what, guys, that's almost everybody in the draft class. All right. They are like a quarter of teams like, well, I will never draft this guy because of this reason. Like he's not compatible with us. Right. He's Rob B is a corner. He was too short for half the teams in the league. Like, nah, we don't like corners that are under 5'10". That ain't really our thing. You know what I mean? That's everybody's got their own blueprint, right? So it happens with 40-yard dashes all the time. Guy runs like a 4.6. Teams like, I can't take him off the board. A guy running a 4.5, low 4.5 at that position, we just can't draft guys like that. That's a data point. That's a deal breaker for us. And I just think for Quinn, there'll probably be a third of teams that are like, yeah, we have too much of a vertical passing game, for Quinn. But there are some other teams, I'm telling you, that will look at Quinn and go, actually, he fits us perfectly. We're not going downfield a ton. We're not throwing it deep a lot. Texas deep ball rate, where was it, CJ? 12%, 13%, somewhere around there, right? In terms of throwing it downfield. They're a team in the NFL that drafts him. I put money on it that their deep ball rate probably isn't going to be that if they draft them like in the first 2 rounds, it's probably not going to be that high, because that's not really a strength of his.
Well, and I would say this, just as watching quarterbacks and following the draft like you do, Rod, a guy like Anthony Richardson can throw the ball 70 yards down the field. Will Levis can throw the ball 70 yards down the field, but their intermediate game really struggles. They aren't proficient in what you're talking about, to which is why Brock Purdy gets drafted last player in the draft, and he makes all the throws Kyle Shanahan wants him to make. There's very few Matt Staffords who can just make every throw off any platform whenever they want for Sean McVay or Patrick Mahomes. But at the same time, you've been around enough NFL coaches that the system is the system. And if you're Mike McDaniel in Miami, or you're Sean McVay with the Rams, or you're Kyle Shanahan, and you can make those throws 90% of the time, I can work with that.
Exactly.
The other stuff we can scheme in. We're going to run the ball. We're going to play action. I can work with that if you're going to put that ball on the money, as CJ said, 95% of the time.
Yep. That's a great example of it there too. So it's all about, to me, it's once again compatibility. And Quinn, he'll get drafted by a team that his skill set is compatible with the offense that they want to run. And I can't wait to see what team that is. And if he drops in the draft, then all bets are off, because once you're kind of out of the first 2 rounds, or the top, 100 picks, then I think teams get into, kind of the specialized traits, things they like, or they can start rolling the dice after that. But I think Quinn will be in those first 3 rounds. And yes, CB, Shanahan's system is perfect for Quinn.
On that, what about this is Quinn perfect for the Shanahan system? That's true. I mean, that's a system guy. I watched, you did too, Rob, with the Texans. Matt Schaub flourish in that system. I mean, it's, and Matt Schaub's not the arm talent of Quinn Ewers in that realm. Brock Purdy even in that conversation. CJ, what about we know Matthew Golden is just accelerated up draft boards, and he's the guy everybody's talking about. But Isaiah Bond, I think, had a pretty good day today too, as someone who gets back on radars as a top 50 kind of pick because he ran 4.3.5, big broad jump, and he's coming out of this now receiver factory that Sark is creating.
Yeah, it was a solid day for Isaiah Bond. Again, I lowering that 40-yard dash, I still think there's some tweaks that he could have made that would have allowed him to get closer to that 4.2 in his 40. But, hey, anything that you run in 4.34, Rod, I mean, that's fast. And no drops today. The hands were good. The routes were crisp. I thought it was a solid day for him. And credit again to Isaiah Bond, because I know, the Texas media, Rod, it's not an easy thing to do. When you come off of a year that's disappointing, you have to go face the music and talk about why that wasn't your year or why it didn't necessarily live up to expectations. But having spoken with Isaiah Bond in Indianapolis and now again after the pro day, he said exactly what you would hope he would say, right? I achieved what I wanted to achieve coming to Austin. I wanted to play for Steve Sarkisian. I wanted to help my draft stock, or at least solidify it in an area that would get me and my family paid, and he's done just that. So I know it was frustrating for him. I know that coming out and displaying what he's able to do on the field at the Combine and now at the Pro Day is going to help put him in that, I would say, round 2 conversation right now. But to hear it from him twice now, tip of the cap, that's well done for him. I think a team's going to be very happy that they ended up with Isaiah Bond. And I think Texas fans will be watching him in the NFL saying, man, it would have been nice to have this guy for a full year of health rather than about 5.5 games.
Yeah, I thought he looked really good in the route running portion of the pro day. I mean, really good acceleration out of his breaks. I think he's trying to showcase, as a matter of fact, this is what he said. He said when we talked to him, he said, I'm trying to showcase that I'm not just a stereotype of just being a speed guy. And he is a speed guy. I mean, you saw where he did the Combine. He had the second fastest acceleration at the Combine in terms of max speed. And he ran a 4.34. And as CJ mentioned, CJ thought watching it probably could have shaved a little sloppy 4.34. Right? He's a guy that could have easily could have a better pro career than a college career, because I don't know if he's even really tapped into his full potential. And I don't think he did at Texas. I know there was, you said he came here to achieve certain things. He was never fully realized as a deep threat at Texas. Every now and then there were a few times where they connected on with him deep, but Quinn struggled with that deep ball. So he wasn't really a deep threat. He was actually more of a threat on the short, quick passes. So I really can't wait to see what team drafts him to. I'm hoping that it's a team that will give him an opportunity early on, because I do think with the right QB, man, he could be a weapon, because his speed on the field, it translates to that speed off the field. Like you can see it. Like I was watching him, I was like, man, he's getting out of breaks, and you can tell he's in a different gear when he's getting to like that max speed. He hits it so fast. I would love to see how quickly it takes him to get, to that, because he looks like he can hit it whenever he wants to.
Yeah, I look at some of those young wide receivers in the league right now that have started to make a lot of noise, right? You look at him, Brian Thomas Jr. in Jacksonville. I look at Malik Neighbors in New York. You're telling me a guy that can stretch the field with as much speed and as much ease as an Isaiah Bond wouldn't help those guys take their ball and their game a little bit further? I think they'd be great fits in both places to go along with young quarterbacks that are trying to continue to that progression forward. I do think Isaiah Bond's going to have a really successful NFL career as well.
Yeah, and the Sark offense is complicated. You're coming in, you're trying to learn it in real time, then you get hurt, and just one of those 1-year deals, and that's a tough situation at times for Isaiah Bond. think he is going to be a good player. I think you said it right, Rod. He's going to have maybe his pro career is more than even we've seen. And that, you know this, I mean, that's really the key for any of these guys. Once you get to the pros, you've been there. Everybody's good. It's about who puts in the time, who puts in the work, who continues to hone the craft day by day that actually excels once they get there, no matter where they get drafted. With that thought here on the On Texas Football Tuesday Night live stream, guys, I think it's consensus that Jahdae Barron, Matthew Golden, and Kelvin Banks will be the first Longhorns drafted, whatever order that is, in the top 20 to 25 picks. Who do you think would be the next pick? Any guess on that? Who do you think would be the next Longhorn?
That's a great question. You got the first three, I think, in that first round that you just mentioned. I think it goes to a trio as well. Is it Alfred Collins, who's been climbing up boards? Is it Isaiah Bond, as we just talked about?
Maybe.
Or is it a Quinn Ewers? And I'm not ready to say Quinn's going to go in those first 40, 45 picks, as I think Alfred Collins might be closer to that 40, 45 range. I think Alfred Collins is probably going to be my pick. I think that there's just too much athleticism in that frame, too much production, too much tape out there that will, force him down that board. Rod, you've talked about it plenty. I mean, those interior defensive linemen, premier positions now. If you can find one at 330 pounds that moves like Alfred, I think you take that risk.
That's a good one. Man, that's good. Man, I want so bad to say Quinn Ewers.
No.
But they don't. I remember Bobby talking about they don't draft a lot of quarterbacks in the second round for some reason in the NFL. There's a trend where they usually end up in the third round or a little bit later. Could happen here with Quinn, but man, that Alfred Collins one is good. Probably gonna go with. I'm probably gonna go with Isaiah Bond actually.
Yeah.
I probably go
based on the Bama film and the Texas film, and then the workouts here. That's a good one. I would say this for Quinn. We'll see. I mean, it's such a quarterback-starved league, and there's be quarterbacks it's not a good quarterback draft. So if you don't want to go there at the top, maybe early second round for a team like, say, the Raiders with Pete Carroll, who's real good friends with Steve Sarkisian. You got Geno Smith for a couple of years. So I think everybody believes Quinn needs at 21, almost 22 years old, just to watch for a little bit, learn the game, continue to work on his craft in that early second round, maybe. I mean, I know the Colts have had some interest because they're looking for quarterbacks. Giants have an early pick and maybe go something different. Now they got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston.
Crazy.
So maybe they're quarterback early second round. Raiders, Saints, any of those. Saints have the 9th pick overall and the 9th pick in the second round. Those kind of spots for Quinn. But, if not, it's going to be one of those premium positions that's not quarterback, receiver, defensive lineman for sure for the Longhorns. And we'll see. It was a good pro day. 21 Longhorns going through the work. I mean, gosh, there was 120 NFL personnel there, coaches, general managers. It's back to being, as Rod said, to start this conversation, the it conversation. You got to be here. You got to be here in Austin now. And Sark has built that. Arch Manning was there talking to people and, beginning his process as the starting quarterback of the Longhorns. Want to get into that, CJ, because you took in the media window for practice and what you saw from Arch today. Making some big throws. Let me let Rod tell you about Andy Ludicky, and then we'll get back into that. Plus, if Sean Miller, the new basketball coach Texas needed to know, he's at a football school. He gets introduced, and we're talking about pro day and spring practice. I mean, he's never been at a school like Texas. He was at Arizona and Xavier where they don't have football. But it turns out that Sean Miller, I'll tell you about this coming up, having taken in his press conference, he is a football guy. He loves him some football. So it seems like it'd be a good fit here. We'll talk about that coming up. But Rod, tell him about Andy Ludicky.
Thank you, E. Appreciate it. And we appreciate Andy Ludicky and his team. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself who has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. Also, if you're stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO, no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, you can give Andy a call and he'll take you through a detailed process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. He understands franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, just give Andy a call today at 404-973-9901, or you can reach out to him via email at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's andy@myperfectfranchise.net. And we appreciate Andy Ludicky and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football.
All right, Rod, thanks a lot. And I'll send you this little piece of audio there, Matthew, that is about the the football that Sean Miller knows, because we'll get back into the Longhorns and football and practice. But let me just mention, taking in the Sean Miller news conference today and what that was. This is I think there's a stability hire here for Texas on the basketball side, right? You're looking for someone who's going to bring the program back to consistency and have it, 20, 25 wins every year, single-digit losses, competing at the top, knows ball. But the question I had for going into this was, does he understand what it's like to be at a non-football or non-basketball school? I mean, Xavier in Arizona, it's really about basketball first. He's seeing clearly what a football school is all about based on the day that he's introduced today. But I thought it went pretty well. And CJ, I know you're excited to hear that, he talked about the 4 principles and pillars he builds his program on. He talks about how he's evolved from as an offensive coach to just offensive sets and offensive basketball. He's a big believer in tempo. He's a big believer in push. I know ahead of the game with Xavier, when Texas lost last Wednesday to Xavier, Rodney Terry said that's one of the fastest teams they've played. And they want to play fast. They want to play up tempo, get, buckets in the early possession, the early shot clock kind of thing, which, especially with the good defensive coaches that are out there in the SEC and around college basketball. He also is big on togetherness and building the home court and, has all the right things to say. But that tempo thing, CJ, I know you like the ability to push the basketball, play a fun brand of basketball that also is going to, think like what we're watching at Florida right now with the Florida Gators is the number 1 offense in the country, but also, top 10 defensive efficiency. Alabama, Auburn, those teams play with tempo. They score 85, 90 points, and that's kind of where you have to be in the SEC. But you also have to get stops on the other end.
Yeah, I'm pumped for it. Playing competitive basketball in the SEC, you got to score. You have to have good offensive sets. You got to have wings that can shoot, and you got to have point guards that can create. With Sean Miller and what we know about his history in program building, you're going to possess all of that, and I can't wait. Right? We talked about it previously. The last guard that was drafted from Texas, 2011, it was Corey Joseph. It was a long time since Texas has had elite guard play. Now, Serge Jabari Rice, right, Tyrese Hunter, Marcus Carr, that was a great group, and look how far Texas went as a result. Now, if you can get back to that, I think you're going to find yourself in positions to win more times than you're not. But on top of it, scoring points, and with the way this conference plays basketball, it's hard to win if you're not offensively driven, right? We're seeing it now in the tournament, right? Chris Beards of the world, some of those, Rick Barnes's, that's fine to get you to the second weekend, and it has for quite a while. But my thing is, you got to get over the hump in the conference and get yourself one of those 1, 2, 3 seeds to make runs forward. And I think Sean Miller can do exactly that. I'm pumped for it. He had some great teams at Arizona. Put a lot of really talented guys in the NBA, right? Derek Williams, a number 2 overall pick. DeAndre Ayton was 1st overall. That's great. I'm all for it. I'm excited for it. And scoring is all more fun. Look, last thing I'll say on it, if you lose a game scoring 85, it's going to feel a whole lot more competitive than losing a game when you scored about 56, right? Hey, the other team made shots too. So I'm for it.
Well, and Rod, I know when you look at the history of Texas basketball, you're talking about defensive coach and Chris Beard, defensive coach, and Shaka Smart came with the havoc, and Rick Barnes before him. This is more of a Sark hire. This is more of an offensive mind that wants to score points and play great defense. He talked about 2-way players. I mean, on the recruiting trail, you try to find guys, and in the portal and high schools that are, they're good defenders to begin with, but they are offensive minded. I have to think that plays to players, that they want to play in a system like that allows them to be loose and score the basketball and push it up and down the floor. And it sells tickets because people want to come watch that brand of basketball. Even if they don't win every game, it's a fun style of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's an identity, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a it clearly and same thing with Sark, right? Sark was bringing in his system and even told everybody, hey, big humans inside in the trenches and speed on the outside. And what's sexier than speed, right? It's the main attraction at the Olympics, main attraction at the Combine. It's still the main attraction. We love watching fast people run, right? And that is part of what showcases Sark's offense, right? It's a lot of speed. Hell, this might be the fastest offense in the history of Texas football this past season. I'm not thinking about it. I mean, all the speed. You had 2 guys in the 4.2s. The last time we had offense with 2 separate guys running 4.2s in the offense, right? right? That's some elite speed. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that's what, and I don't know what kind of factor this was in the decision making for CDC, but I think for the fans, it's good to know that you'll have a clear identity with the style of basketball, and it'll be one, let's be honest, that young people will like and that young people will vibe with, CJ, because it's offense, man. Every time there's a good defensive game, right? They talk about how it was unappealing and it wasn't entertaining, right? Nobody likes to see that. People want to see offense, no matter what sport you're talking about. So I think it'll be good for the fans. That'll be scoring points. Even if you're losing high scoring games, fans are easier to forgive that one because it's not as
but you look at the last 5 national champions. You're talking about UConn twice. They could score the ball in the 80s, 85s. I mean, Florida this year, number 1, Duke is going to score a lot of points. Those top 4 teams, Baylor in 2021, they could score with anybody. Gonzaga, they haven't won one, but they've been right there. You got it up and down the floor. You got to put the ball in the basket. And again, that appeals when, half the tournament is transfers right now, and everybody's from the portal. Rick Pitino said leading up to the tournament, not building St. John's into a 2 seed, in the Big East champions. I don't recruit high schools. I'm going to recruit college. I'm going to recruit players that want to come in and play my system because I can evaluate them better. It can be a quick turnaround for Sean Miller. We'll see. I wanted to play this for you here on the Tuesday night. I know it's football season for sure in the spring, but a new basketball coach on the men's side. Here's Sean Miller kind of appealing to the football side of things because he grew up in Western Pennsylvania, grew up in the hometown of, I think he said, Joe Namath. His father was a high school basketball coach, so he grew up in basketball, but he loves him some football. He pointed out Steve Sarkisian, who was there today, loves watching Sark and SEC football on Saturdays. Here's Sean Miller endearing himself to the football side of the Texas program.
Steve Sarkisian. I've been a fan. I'm a huge college football fan, probably because I grew up in Pittsburgh. If you say, Coach, who do you watch the most? Amy and I, like we damn near put on like Franco Harris's jersey and watch the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. And sometimes I save my energy and I just watch that SEC game on Saturday. But I've watched the rise of Steve. We were in the Pac-12 together. He was at, obviously, Washington and SC. We have a common friend, Kevin McGuff, who I know he worked with at Washington. And I've become a fan of watching the SEC football in Texas. It's like, what do you do on weekends? That's a big part of what I like to do before our season starts. Bijan Robinson went to South Point High School in Tucson. Went to high school in the same class as my youngest son, Braden, which is wild to watch him here in little old Tucson playing high school football and watch him become the offensive rookie of the year with the Falcons. It's like, wow, that's Bijan, a guy that I used to watch in 9th and 10th grade. So I'm anxious.
All right, so there you go. Playing to the football side. That's pretty cool.
No, it's smart. And the crazy thing is, because now I see people in the chat talking about how they look like they could be kinfolk, right?
Yeah.
They do. They really do. I'm not going to lie. Sean, they look like they could be cousins or something like that. Yeah. Apparently, and Brian Davis tweeted this out, and apparently CDC knows it too. I'm surprised. I don't know if CDC brought it up either. But he claimed
he did. And when he introduced me, he said this could be your doppelganger. You guys really look alike.
Apparently, yeah, that's what Brian Davis tweeted out. That CDC looked out and said that they could be doppelgangers. I don't know about doppelgangers. They definitely look like they could be related. I ain't gonna lie. They look like they could be brothers or cousins or something like that.
I just think that's obviously in this point. Thank you, Juan, for that super chat. Yes, he does look and sound like Sark, and I think they're going to be buds because. Sark's first love is you got this too. Here's CDC talking about the lookalikes, as you guys are pointing out here on the super chats. Here's CDC. He sees the resemblance as well.
Friendship, two of you throughout this time period, but more importantly, throughout this entire time, has been incredible. Hey, Coach Sarkisian, hi, buddy. By the way, I found your doppelganger. As you guys know, you guys look a lot alike. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, they're funny. Well, and Sark's first love was baseball. So if Sark's a huge baseball fan, he loves the Lakers. I just think it's cool that these coaches at Texas, like they're multiple sport guys where, I mean, you can see when you see them together, Vic Schaefer and Sark were sitting next to each other, and Jim Schlossnagle and Sark are close because of baseball. They both love baseball. And now you got this I kind of wondered and thought out loud on the radio show and here, how's Sean Miller going to do at a football school? It feels like he's going to love it. I mean, he loves college football genuinely, as you just said. He grew up in Western Pennsylvania, where kind of like Texas, it's all football all the time. It's Pittsburgh Steelers. He went to Pitt University with Tony Dorsett, who grew up right by him. He said, so it's like it kind of seems to fit, and that's something that I know CDC is trying to build, a culture of great coaches and consistency. You just want a program that's hanging around, that's built to win. As we know, you're not going to win every year, but you need to be in that mix, because CJ and Rod, if you're in the top 15 or 20, you're a 3, 4, or 5 seed, or maybe every once in a while you're a 2 or 1 seed, but you're in that conversation as a top 20 team. That's where the basketball program needs to be. Plus, with revenue sharing and the NIL and the house settlement coming, they've got to fill that building. They've got to have fan base that's ginned up and excited about it, and wants to watch a fun product, because it's got to generate revenue.
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? We're seeing it with Vic Schaefer's squad right now. That team's fun to watch, right? Yeah. Folks back Moody Center, get behind them, and it creates an actual environment and home court advantage. I don't know if there's a game this year that I could point to and say, yeah, Texas benefited from that home court. Maybe it was the second half against Texas A&M, right? You come back from that big deficit. Maybe that's it. But it certainly wasn't against UConn, right? When you played the 2-time defending national champions at home early in the season, when you're supposed to have a superstar freshman and a really talented group of scorers around them. No, that was a dead atmosphere. And it certainly wasn't like that late in the season when you need to rattle off all sorts of wins to get into the tournament, right? You lost 6 games at home this year in SEC play. So I hope that returns, because you look at the Kevin Durant, you look at the TJ Fords, you look at the Mo Bambas, and Jared Allens and Miles Turners of the world. Folk got up for those games because they had something to root for. So I hope that's something that returns to Austin, because you see it in every other sport, right? I think softball tickets this weekend are about $70 a pop, but that comes with being the number 1 team in the country and having excitement around you. So I think it's great. And again, I'm pro Sean Miller. I think this is going to be a great style of basketball returning, and hopefully the excitement follows.
Yeah, the Longhorns with 5 programs already this year that have reached number 1 in the country, including football back in October. And maybe at some point baseball, they're winning right now, 5-2 over at the Dish. I mean, they're number 3 in one poll right now, number 6 or 7 in the other. Maybe if they keep playing like they are, actually up 7-2 now over at the Dish, they could ascend to number 1 as well. I mean, it's within reach at this point, and that's really what the goal is. And Sean Miller seems like he embraces the opportunity, and had been at Arizona as a football school for sure. And you mentioned the home crowds this year, CJ. I was at an Arkansas game they played where there were more Arkansas fans, it felt like, and they won that game pretty comfortably. It was a bigger game for the Razorback and the Hogs calling, and John Calipari, Kentucky, on a Saturday night. Even though Texas won the game, it felt like there were more Big Blue fans there. And I know Texas will report revenues of sold-out crowds, but you could see when you were there, a lot of those tickets went to other fan bases, and they need to get back to making that. I mean, I don't think that's all on Rodney Terry. At the same time, there's a selling of the program, and maybe I'll find this cut that I have from him talking about the corral and the student fans and create an atmosphere. I know Chris Beard, I thought, did a good job before his situation of trying to sell it to the fans and those fireside chats and the YouTube channels and all those things, trying to reach the students. You got to reach back into that and bring an exciting brand of basketball, which I think he will. Plus, as you just heard, he likes him some football, which will fit in right here on the On Texas Football channel and our Tuesday night live stream as we go. Let me tell you about Mark Saunders and Allstate. I did see something the other day for Mark Saunders and his team at Allstate for your insurance. You guys know the Round Rock is kind of where Mark is based, Williamson County, Travis County there. One of the 10 safest cities in the country, which is a good thing as far as natural disasters. I think that's great. But at the same time, you still want to make sure all of because maybe you live in Round Rock, but you've got a lake house or you got a beach house or you've got cars and family and all those things. With 35 years of experience, you go to sleep every night. If you have the Texas alum Mark Saunders and the team at Allstate, with all your insurance under one package, your umbrella, are you covered is what you really want to know as you rest easy homes and cars and boats and motorcycles, RVs, ATVs, jewelry, everything that you have. If you're looking for someone local to the Austin Round Rock area, give Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders a call today or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow, the best chance, 512-218-8571. That's 218-8571. And again, as you go to sleep tonight thinking about Texas football and Texas basketball and all our conversations, ask yourself, are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be with the Texas alum Mark Saunders and his team. We appreciate him every Tuesday night. Great partner of ours. He's a UT grad. You can call him, talk to him about insurance and Longhorn sports for sure. 218-8571. That's 218-8571. Mark's the best in Round Rock, Williamson County, and Travis County as we get going here into some football. So we have a new basketball coach at Texas. So we said pro day is in the books. CJ, you took in the first practice this morning. The media window, Arch Manning wearing number 16. I thought it was interesting. Ryan Wingo and Colin Simmons both wearing number 1 today. Number changes. Trey Wisner from 26 to 5. Thought that was one that kind of stood out. But what stood out to you today on what you could see in the first practice from the Longhorns and the new way of spring practice that Steve Sarkisian is implementing?
Yeah, I thought it was very hands-on. A lot more coaches to players in terms of ratio. And that was evident on the defensive side of the ball when you had Colin Simmons basically getting a one-on-one, technique tutelage by Pete Kwiatkowski. You had 3 guys to a group with Kenoto Hudson, Mark Orfe, and Dwayne Akina going through their defensive back drills. It was just very, I guess, they built it so that there's a lot of hands-on and they're teaching everything. So I love that. And I think with this young group, that's what you need. And of course, this isn't going to be your regular spring practice sessions where guys are going all out, pads on, full on against everybody every single day, right? It's going to be a lot of pads, a lot of just helmets, and just basically figuring out what the system is and how we can teach that, develop guys. And I think that's great with this youthful squad. Offensively, I'll say this. I think in a year, that wide receiving room is going to be tremendous. Right now, I think it needs a guy out of the portal. But the raw tools and, what they have from a raw talent perspective, I mean, my goodness, there's so much talent right there for these young wide receivers. It's just all about getting them acclimated and ready.
Rod, let me ask you this as a football theorist who's taught me a lot about football, the way you see it, the way you watch it. What does that mean to you when they're trying to teach? It's almost like Sark and his assistant coaches there's so much continuity. They know what they want. They want to teach them the theory of football. They want to teach these players, hey, here's why we're asking you to do it this way. Here's why we're teaching you this way. And obviously they have the evidence that how we teach it works. As a player, how do you hear that?
No, I think because of all, he talked about it too, right? They have so many newcomers, and he was talking about the players, but I think also because they have so many new coaches, there is an emphasis on teaching the style of practice, right? And I think ultimately, not only for the players, so they can teach them, the fundamentals, and also make sure they understand the game within the game, but also for some of the new coaches, for the new coaches to understand now the new culture of practice, right? The intensity of the Texas practice, how there are some coaches coming from different places, how Sark likes his coaches to, address the players, and when do you, coach the players, when do you take a player to the side and make sure they understand, where they messed up and where they can improve and where you're trying to critique them. And so I just think he wants ultimately to get back to, or not get back to, because I think they've done a great job because it's the first time they've done it. But I think this specific spring, he wants to make sure that with all the new faces, players and coaches, that everybody understands how they go about their practices and why they emphasize what they do, whatever it may be. And so he doesn't want some end up being some toxicity or just some new element to disrupt the culture that he's built. He's talked about this, how it was really hard at first. And now, because the players are passing it down, because you have so much continuity on the coaching staff, hey, there's less work to do, to build it. Now I just have to make sure that I keep fine-tuning it and refining it over and over again. And I don't think he wants to allow some outside influences to come in and disrupt the culture. He's going to show them how he wants them to coach within his structure and how he wants them to treat the players, how he wants them to approach the players. A lot of different coaching styles, and not all of them work together. So I think it's a lot of different things. I think Sark's doing it the right way too. I mean, that's why he doesn't want people telling him what to do with his spring. Right? Why he doesn't want spring games. He's like, man, I got a different purpose and I got a different motive and intention for every spring, depending on what kind of team I got. And I think that's why this specific spring is going to be the way it is.
Speaking on different coaching styles, Dwayne Akina, Rod, he's back. I don't know if you got to see.
I did.
Did you get to hear it?
Oh man, I saw him out there at Pro Day. I didn't get a chance to see him out here. I saw your video though.
Yeah, he was getting after a couple of the boys right back there, and Rod, I'm sure he had that that fiery passion back then. I don't know,
man.
You got to tell me about this arm, because he was humming that thing like Randy Johnson at some of these defensive backs.
Still got it. No, he still got he insists on, and back then he threw it to a lot of guys because he coached the entire secondary. I don't know if they divided up the stuff here or not, but dude, he's always been like very, very insistent on throwing all the drills. Trust me, I remember that back in the day. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten some young, quality control, young, GA there to do it for him now. Coach Akina, man. That's why I say he's the youngest. Was he 60? What age?
68. Yeah, 68.
Man, youngest 68 I've ever seen. Look at that dude. Look at that dude out there.
Well, I know this, Rod. You know this too. He's got like 4 or 5 kids, and I remember I always heard stories. He was coaching out in Circle C where his kids were, and he's the same way with the young guys.
Oh,
he's fiery. And then he and Dick Comey were playing in like an over 50 baseball league down there in East Austin, like back in the day. You remember that? Like they're down there playing like over 50 hardball, like over top baseball.
I have friends too, and I got some booster friends, and they told me about Coach Akina in these little pickup basketball games.
Yeah.
Get after it in pickup basketball games, like behind the scenes with like boosters and like he would get after it. Like somebody like, hey, Coach Akina, hey, you ain't trying to calm down. These dudes are just it's supposed to be a friendly game, and Coach Akina likes to get out. I don't know if he still does that because he's a little older now, but back in the day, yeah, he's got a competitive sickness. So any way for him to exercise it, he does, man. So pickup games, his kids, coaching them, coaching the players. I don't think he can ever kind of give up.
He's got one speed. He's got one way. He's got one way of doing it. And obviously the results speak for themselves. Hey, Rod and CJ, let me ask you about today. I think there was a story from West Virginia that actually uncovered that the official contract for Neil Brown, and he's making $45,000 to be the special assistant to the head coach, and Sark's, offensive. What do y'all think this offense? What do you? I mean, Sark. The last time I think there was a official special assistant to the head coach who was Gary Patterson, and it was to help Pete Bukowski with defense. And Rod, you talked about learning the Big 12 and the ways of the Big 12 kind of thing. What do you think Neil Brown, 6 years at West Virginia, Troy before that, as the special assistant to Sark? What he and Chad Scott, the new running backs coach, what does that mean for you when you got to try to climb in their head of what they're thinking about what this offense can be built around Arch Manning in 2025?
Ooh, go ahead, CJ. I know you go ahead because you already wrote up on it, so get on it.
Yeah, no, I look at that run game, obviously, with a lot of new faces, a lot of new pieces there. How quickly can you get and create a cohesive unit amongst that group? Because that's going to be key, right? That was an issue for Texas in the red zone. That was an issue for Texas in short yardages throughout the field, throughout the last couple of seasons too. So I know Sark's looked at bringing in Paul Chryst previously. What kind of new ideas can Neil Brown do for you here? Get it? Brown do for you. But anyways, I mean, look, you have to be better, right? And you have to be better quicker this year. Obviously, Ohio State coming week 1, you have to look at these new pieces and say you got to be ready for not just the defending champions, but a full SEC slate in which you're going to be more on the road this year than you were when it comes to your game in the swamp. You got to go to Kentucky. You got to play in Athens. Like, you got some tough games ahead of you. Get that offensive line ready, but also Garrett Green and what he used with his legs. 253 rush attempts over the last 2 years. I know he was a very mobile quarterback, and you're not going to try to run Arch Manning as often as him, but what kind of wrinkles can you provide? What kind of plays can you suggest? And obviously, all about Chad Scott and that familiarity in the running game with him being his previous offensive coordinator. I'm just hopeful that there is an improvement in the short red with the addition of Neil Brown, whether it be through the running game traditionally or with the legs of Arch Manning.
Yep.
Rod, you see like, and this is not to diminish what Trey Wisner brought to this team last year with that outside zone. They kind of had to go to it. But do you feel like it's, C.J. Baxter, who feels like he's going to be healthy, Jarrett Gibson, kind of more gap scheme, kind of more power, get upfield running back kind of game? Is that what you were thinking with Arch Manning, who's going to, as we saw today, he's already, looks the part. What do you feel like from the football side, the X's and O's of what that can look like?
Yeah, I think CJ hit the nail on the head. I think it's going to bring more variety to the run game. You kind of lost a little bit of your variety in the run game late in the season. Texas got so good at running the outside zone. And like I said, I was talking to a coach about this, and I'm not sure if Texas ran so much outside zone just because that's what Sark likes to do. And that's, because there's some NFL teams they just run a ton of outside zone. Kyle Shanahan's one of them. And I don't know if they did that because that's what Sark loves to do, or if that's because they're going to have 3 NFL tackles in the last 2 years drafted. And it's like, well, that's where your strength is. You got NFL tackles. You should be running outside zone so you can maximize their strength. So that's one thing I've been thinking about. So this year I'm going to look at, because I think CJ's right. I think they're going to have some of Neil Brown's going to bring a little bit of more creativity, innovation to the run game. I love what he brought up about the quarterback run game. We know Sark's not going to major in quarterback run game. We get that. But it would be nice when you do decide those few times to sprinkle in quarterback design run, that you have ways to protect them, number one, but also you got some variations. It's not just, when they run, quarterback design run, it's going to be the same thing every time with Arch. And I think that's something Neil Brown can bring to the table too. So I think you're going to get more variety and more diversity with the run game. Period. That's what you needed, because you were so much. I think toward the end of the season, you were about 65% of your explosive plays in the run game were coming off outside zone. It was great. It was, and you were elite at running, a top 10 outside zone team in the country, but it made you really predictable in the run game. And then when you face teams that knew that was what you're going to do, Arizona State, Ohio State, and a team that matched up well with you, also Georgia, you couldn't run that, and that's 3 of your games in the postseason.
Yeah, you just crashed it.
And also, you couldn't even run the outside zone because everybody knew, well, that's all they can run. Once I stop that, they ain't got no running game after that. You got to find another way to pivot in the running game when they stop your outside zone, because somebody's going to stop it. You ain't going to be able to run the same damn thing on everybody. Just because Clemson lets you run it 23 times for 250 yards doesn't mean everybody else is going to do that. So I just think Texas, they need more variety. And there's no doubt quarterback run game will automatically bring you more variety, because having to account for the +1 in the running game is a nightmare for defenses.
Yeah, Garrett Green's a good example from West Virginia and what Neil Brown brings. And there's a reason Clemson changed out their defensive coordinator at the end of the year too, because they couldn't stop the one run play they knew Texas was good at, and it got them beat in that game. CJ, on the Arch Manning thing, I mean, I've argued at least that I feel like if you watch the Philadelphia Eagles play this year, that's kind of what Texas's offense could look like. They're the big humans, massive offensive line that just wears you out, speed outside with great weapons that can win one-on-ones, a quarterback that brings the ability to throw it and win those one-on-one battles throwing the ball, but also can run a little bit. But kind of like where Jalen Hurts picks his spots where he runs the ball, where he takes off, and it's not like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or one of these. It's more clever. I mean, I don't know if they're going to do the tush push or whatever, but more about when Jalen Hurts does run, it's really just to move the chains, just to keep things going, get that first down. Maybe that's the Arch Manning style that brings, as Rod said, the +1 in the run game. And I think the Eagles, what they do, because it kind of looks like the personnel-wise, the way that Sark's building this team, C.J. Baxter's not Saquon Barkley, but same kind of thing. You're going to run the football. You have a quarterback that's dual threat, and you've got speed all over the field on the outside. Yeah,
Rod, you asked me, last week, maybe a week and a half ago, how to describe this Texas offense in as few words as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think what I said for that was it's going to be flashy grit, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to have the big plays over the top. You're going to have some exciting runs with your talented running backs. Who knows what Arch Manning might do? But when it comes down to it, this team, I think, is going to be pretty gritty because of those 3 interior offensive linemen and Arch Manning's ability to go get you a yard when you need a yard, right? That wasn't the case with Quinn Ewers. That wasn't the case with this Texas offense at all last year, right? We saw it firsthand when the season ended on the 1-yard line against Ohio State. So I look at it and say, yeah, maybe not the tush push, Aaron. I'm with you. But I do think that running game and ability to extend the chains and keep drives alive will be there for Texas next year as a result of some gritty plays, right? That maybe haven't been the focal point of a Sark offense, but I'm sticking with that because the flashiness is going to be there. We saw it today. There's too many weapons at wide receiver that have the downfield playability, right? Parker Livingstone, I think, is going to be a great addition to this room on top of Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore. But I mean, Arch Manning and what he can do, how versatile he is as a quarterback, I think he'll be on full display.
Agreed.
The reason I say Eagles, Rod, and your thoughts, and that, again, he's won Super Bowl, so let's not. But at the same time, they have the number 1 defense because they were, and this defense should be really, really good. Built around Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill, and a secondary that includes Michael Taff and the returners back there. They should be even better on defense this year, in my mind. So you want to move the chains, wear teams out with your size, occasionally hit a big play. But as CJ's saying, when you're going to Columbus, you're going to Athens, you're going to Gainesville, you're going to Lexington, you're going to have to go on the road and bring a tough physical, mental mindset where you can wear a team out and win with defense. Have explosive plays when they're available to you, but really win the trench battle. I think it kind of feels like that's where this thing's going with the coaching hires that they've made.
Honestly, the truth is that was a lot of, the team last season and last couple of seasons has been they're explosive.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you were top 10 explosive plays in 2023 in terms of 20-plus yard gains, and you were number 1 in the country in 20-plus yard gains last year. And you were really bad, actually, in a lot of other places offensively. Third quarter turnovers. You gave the ball away at a bottom 15 rate in the country in terms of being able to, in terms of the turnover rate on offense. If you look at, third downs, you weren't great. Red zone offense, we complain about that all the time. But that's what a cheat code explosive plays are. If you can just get explosive plays, a lot of those things that really would ultimately be debilitating for other offenses, being bad in the red zone. Bad in the red zone and turnovers, guys, you realize those are like the two of the top 3 most important things. To be the important thing to execute in football is taking care of the football, number 1, and then when you're getting in the red zone, punching it in. Texas was bad at both of those things, and yet was knocking on the door of a national title.
Yeah.
Like that. That's I'm telling you. Getting back to what he said, if you're explosive, I think Sark understands that now. That's an old Bill Walsh belief that, listen, explosive plays is kind of the ultimate cheat code. You're explosive, it'll erase a lot of mistakes or cover up a lot of mistakes, and it did for Texas. What this offense this year could be, if you can keep the explosivity, and I think that's a Sark thing, because I would say Sark's first year, you were 71st in explosive plays, and then I would say after that, you were like top 30, somewhere around that in 2022, CJ, and then you went to top 10 in 2023, and then you were number 1. And these are different iterations, right? They're different offensive, skill players on the outside and struggling, having a quarterback that can't stay healthy, all those kind of things. And yet Sark's offense, we know one thing, it's going to generate explosive plays. No matter what the issues are that plague it, third down offense, red zone offense, they're going to generate explosive plays. And I think that'll still, because I'm going to CJ, that'll still be the case this year. You may even get more with the scramble drill, with Arch's legs, and with the deep ball. You're the most explosive offense in the country, and the deep ball wasn't even great for you. Think about that.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying I think, the Eagles come to mind because what they did last year so well when they won the Super Bowl was played great defense. They were explosive when they needed to be, especially Saquon Barkley with the run game, but then they moved the chains and they controlled the clock and they won time of possession and they were great in the red zone. All those things, and Jalen Hurts wouldn't turn the ball over. And in the end, no one could beat them. After they went 2-2 to start the year, they never lost again, really, when Jalen Hurts was healthy.
That's the next level for Texas. That's the next level. They can just start
the next level.
In those
that's the next level. Now you have a quarterback. And CJ, what did you see today with Arch Manning? I know I saw a lot of highlights. What I saw today, what I feel is we're seeing a quarterback who got to sit and watch, who's matured, he's got his body right. It's not one of these quarterbacks at Texas that's, being rushed on the field as a freshman and, forced out there. This is a guy who's matured a little bit. He's got a lot of talent, and he just looked the part of a third-year player who's ready to, take that quarterback room maybe even to a different level.
Yeah, he looked like the part of a quarterback going into year 3 of the same system. And, that clip that we showed earlier of the deep ball to Parker Livingstone in the corner of the end zone, I mean, that's as pretty as the deep ball that's been on Dennis Fields in probably 4 years, right? Maybe even longer if you want to go into the lore of Texas quarterbacks. But no, I mean, he was on point, right? And the big thing for me is, and there were some drops, right? I think with this youthful wide receiving unit, that might be expected, of course. I don't think these guys are bringing it to maybe the miles per hour of an Arch Manning or a Trey Owens. And that's going to be completely different than what this offense displayed last year, right, with Quinn Ewers. That's not his MO. And I've brought this up several times. I still don't know how fast Quinn Ewers can throw a football. But point being, the rocket passes, the bullet passes, the back shoulders, the seams, those are going to be where you see Texas make their money in 2025 on top of the big, deep, over-the-top plays. But for Arch, I thought he was accurate. He was on time. He was commanding. He was leading. That's been something I've been hearing a lot of as well. And I wouldn't expect that to change at all over the next 14 practices.
Yep, all the way to that fan day on April 26th. With the Texas Longhorns. Rod, tell them one more time about Andy Ludicky, and we'll get some super chats and wrap this thing up on a busy Tuesday. As we said, to start the live stream tonight, not your typical Tuesday. New basketball coach on the men's side. Texas women head to the Sweet 16. We've got spring practice opening, pro day. A lot to talk about. Rod, tell them about Andy Ludicky, our great partner on the Tuesday night.
Yes, sir. And thank you to Andy Ludicky and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. Now, if you're looking to diversify, you could be someone like me that got their hands in a lot of different businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify your portfolio by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, please call Andy today and he'll take you through a very detailed process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, just give Andy a call today at 404-973-9901. That's 404-973-9901. Or reach out via email at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football.
No doubt about that. All right, Matthew, any super chats? Anything else we need to get to here tonight? And I know CJ's been a long day for you, Rod. You guys have been getting after it with this all-day Tuesday from 9 o'clock in the morning all the way through pro day this afternoon. Next workout for the Longhorn football team will be Thursday as they get this rolling. And it sounds like there'll be some scrimmages on the weekends, CJ, or is that later in the month? Later in the month,
Texas will get after it lightly in comparison to years past, but yeah, I'm pumped. Texas, they'll another media availability on Thursday, so make sure to tune in, and we'll have some tidbits and nuggets tomorrow on TexasFootball.com.
All right, the Coffee and Football show tomorrow morning. So Matthew, no super chats. All right, perfect. Guys, great stuff tonight. Appreciate y'all for an hour plus here. Appreciate the hard work today covering it. Get over to CJ and Rod's. I mean, the third Longhorn stuff will be coming out. They'll be back tomorrow morning. CJ, with your Twitter account, and you posted a bunch of videos and interviews with people. Jaden Blue, I believe, was a part of that as well. Go check out CJ and all the content on the On Texas Football live streams and content there at the social media pages as well. Guys, appreciate you. Good stuff. Good Tuesday night. It's spring football season. Lots to talk about here coming up over the next month. Plus, new Longhorn basketball coach. Baseball's winning 10-2 at last check. Just saw Will Gasparino hit a big home run. Jalen Flores hit a home run. Longhorns, Adrian Rodriguez hit a home run. A bunch of these guys are going long today with the wind blowing out at the dish. They're up 10-2. Ahead of a series with Missouri this weekend. It's a good time. Texas softball's playing great. Texas women will play Tennessee on Saturday at 2:30 for Vic Schaefer in the Sweet 16. A lot of going on the 40 for sure. Guys, great stuff. Appreciate it. Awesome.
Thanks, guys. Hook 'em.
Y'all